to the COVID-19 conversations with Bryan and Shannon that we've been hosting through Own Not Run. We're really trying to help business owners know how other business owners are adapting during this time so that they can walk away with some really inspirational tips and tools to move their businesses forward. And we are very grateful today to have Daymond John and Ted Kingsbery with the Shark Group. Daymond's been a long-time supporter, Ted a long-time client of Belay. We were talking earlier about how you were in the midst of your book launch when all of the world started to change. And ironically, that book was Powershift, talking about how you can transform any situation, close any deal, and achieve any outcome. And I could not think of a more applicable time to be talking about the content in that book. Obviously, the mechanics of how you're promoting it have changed, but just thank you guys for taking time to spend with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Ted, could you just speak about your role? I think anybody who's dialing into this has seen Daymond on a variety of platforms through Shark Tank and other places. But yeah, can you just talk a little bit about your role in the organization and how you guys work together?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Ted Kingsbery. I'm the president of the Shark Group, and the Shark Group is Daymond's consulting company, and we handle everything from his investments on the show on Shark Tank, and then outside of the show. And then we have a number of different clients with everything from branding, product development, sourcing, manufacturing, sales, social media, different integrated marketing campaigns. And we work with brands like Chase Bank and Shopify and Johnson & Johnson, a number of amazing brands like that. And we also work with celebrities. So Carlos Santana, Catherine Zeta-Jones, she's actually a business partner of ours. And then Daymond is our boss. But we also view him as client number one. So we handle all of his everything, I guess. So, any different courseware that we're putting out there, his books, our team helps with that whole process of the research process and marketing it and putting it out there. We also help with all of his brand alignments, any philanthropic organizations that he has close ties with, and whatever else he's working on and wants our help with.
Very cool. Well, I mean, obviously we're all working from home right now, but beyond the obvious question of how this has impacted your team, like how have you seen your team right now, like in terms of their communication with each other? What's that been like for you guys? Has it been super hard, or has it been surprisingly easier than you thought? Like, where does that sit with y'all?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're kind of in a good spot. Thankfully we've worked with you guys and your team before in the past, and we have 4 different virtual assistants that work on different projects. And so because you have one person kind of outside of the walls of the office, we were somewhat remote in that sense, and certain systems and processes were already in place, which was great. There were some people that weren't interacting on a daily basis with those people, but we were able to catch them up. And then the good thing was we also had 4, experts at working from home. So we were able to rely on them and have them put together some best practices and things like that. When I did have a question, I reached out to you guys and my relationship manager over there, Laura McGraw. And she was super helpful figuring out resources and solutions and everything. So, there were probably a bunch of challenges, and I think it was just a lot was happening in the world and a lot of communication was happening real quick. But we weren't that far behind from an employee standpoint of getting communication going and making sure the work was still happening.
Good.
Daymond, what about all the events that you had planned and promoting the book tour and the book and even beyond that?
Yeah, so I've been used to what at the moment will seem to be a devastating time, and of course this is very challenging due to the loss of life and things of that nature. But if we talk about business, this is I've been saying in a lot of interviews, I went through the 98 crash, I went through the .com crash, I've been through the 9/11, I've been through 08. So usually when those times come, we learn to adjust. And honestly, something similar happened when 9/11 happened. We had just spent $3 million on creating an original soundtrack and album of new artists and or regular artists that you've known already. And there was the Fatty Girls song was actually on it. And it came out the exact same day that 9/11 happened, the week that 9/11 happened. So this is kind of like my second version of the week that something's launching, and 3 or 4 months of preparation to launch it, as well as a year and a half of creating it comes out, and then everybody's attention needs to be on something else because obviously there's something else more demanding out in the market. But on the flip side, unlike that time when it was an album of people, of something of people wanting to dance and blow off some steam, what I have now out, unfortunately, is really timely because, studying one of the people that works with you, Crystal, who works with Belay, she's working virtual and she is virtually, and she is a prime example of what people need to know how to do and be prepared for times like this and be able to pivot a little bit. You were talking to Ted, I'll be very honest, my scheduling or my communication with the team hasn't changed greatly because I travel 250 days a year. Sure. It's really Ted and the team working all the time. So now I'm getting to peek into all the things that they have been working on because a boss like me, I have to turn around to the team and say, now, when you guys are telling me about virtual assistants, when you guys were telling me about all these new technologies and all this stuff, and I invested in it because you know what? I shouldn't hire you if you're dumber than me. You're smarter than me. So I'm going to invest in all this stuff. And I don't know if I need it because I'm an old dog. I don't know if I need it. Now is when I call on them to say, the investment that we put in, I want to see it starting to, if it's not, first of all, you don't want to pay off. I want to see this secure our position and make sure we don't slip too low because now you guys have created some level of a moat. And then after we understand all this and you've taught the old dog now how to do it, now how are we going to build and adjust? And how are we going to share this? Like, with you guys, how are we going to share this with the rest of the world to help other entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs and stuff like that? So it really is, it really is the time that, kind of Ted was telling me the sky is falling, and I was like, no, just stop being Chicken Little, and now the sky's has fallen, and Ted was prepared for it. So, and thank you to you and the teams that you have as well to show us and really, really make it much easier for us.
Thank you. It's interesting. We've found that a lot of people aren't asking us just how do you work from home. It's also the conversation you said, like, we're getting people to say, how do you lead from home? This is a leader or an executive or an owner of a company or whatever. And they're like, I don't even know how to lead people from afar. Yeah. It's been a challenging time just teaching people like, hey, here's some basics, around leading people. So it makes sense. You are quite virtual already from a travel standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that brings up a good point. When people think about leading from home, leadership in the office itself, when you are hand to hand with people and can walk in other offices, it's challenging, right? Yeah. So when you say just lead from home, it's not only okay, here's this platform, open up and get on a call at 5 o'clock. Right. There's a lot of cadences and there's a lot of different ways that you're supposed to have morale in a team. You're supposed to have, what are you guys standing for? And, how are you going to self-govern yourself and be disciplined and make sure that you over-provide? So I think there's a lot of stuff that people can learn from you, from not only it's kind of like, there's an old saying, if people know, let me get this saying straight because I haven't used it in a long time. If people know how things work, they'll always have a job. If people know why things work, they'll always be that person's boss, right? Yeah. And if you know why working from home could work, there's you can get on this platform. That's fine.
Sure, that's
but why and and all the cadences. I think that is more important. That people need to understand that fluidity of what you need to do, as well as the technology.
Yeah, I definitely think that the season has come and gone where people wonder if the business model of people working from home is validated. There's a lot of people that actually hate the coronavirus. We all do, but they actually are enjoying working from home. Maybe for the first time ever.
I think the one thing that this coronavirus has done for us, besides making sure that we appreciate loved ones and things of that nature, it is everybody has a problem right now.
Yeah.
So you won't feel embarrassed to call somebody with $1 billion company, say, how can we work together? I may have a solution for you. You may have a solution for me, because nobody's sitting there going, I'm doing better than everybody else. Now, maybe somebody is who may be dealing with technology, but still, even in a good way, Amazon has to hire a massive amount of new people. Think about having all those people training, right? So everybody has a challenge right now. And this is like when 9/11 happened. We would no longer go through the airports screening the same way. I mean, our lives just changed in one day. And this is going to change our lives, from everything from how close we are to people with protective wear, to how we're communicating with people and how we're bringing information out and absorbing information.
You brought up a point earlier that I think is worth revisiting, and that's how you've led even before all of this happened, but it's very open-handed of saying, hey team, I'm relying on you to tell me what works best. You know, that I've hired you because you're smarter in these areas than I am, and I want you to say, how can we leverage that and move things forward? And one of the questions that we've asked our leaders at Belay is, what do you need from us right now? Like, you're as close to the situation as anybody. What do you need to have? What roadblocks do you need to have removed? What tools or resources do you need to have? What critical thinking do you need to just bounce off of us? So beyond the technology side of things, are there other examples that you guys would have around like how to make sure that your teams, your leaders within your organizations are equipped to weather this storm?
Yeah, and I'm going to let Ted answer a little bit more of that, and he could probably get a little more granular on what he does with his team, from, you know, weekly check-ins to, you know, fail fast and charts. But, you know, I got to say that, you know, I speak an average of 70 times a year, and from whether it's large corporations to Chamber of Commerce. And every one of them, when they fill out the questionnaire of what they would like me to touch on, is how to give their team the entrepreneurial spirit within, you know, a corporation, and allow them to think like entrepreneurs. And so a lot of times what we've done is we provided digital curriculums to big organizations so that their people can study it, and then they can anonymously put in what keeps them up at night, you know, what was really exciting about the company and various other things. But Ted could probably speak more on it. But the reason why I invested all those years and money into trying to move ourselves forward is, how could I would feel like a fake person if I went out to speak to all these corporations saying you need an entrepreneurial, you know, team, and yet I wasn't doing the same myself. And what I found happened throughout my team of those things is, you know, new divisions like our private consulting, or our deal with Catherine Zeta-Jones, or a lot of things came out of letting people use that free time they had to create something, and not penalize them, but allow them to say, listen, I already got these two things that I'm doing. If I do this one on my own time and I bring it to and I get it to this level, will you consider it? I mean, believe it or not, Ted started off as an intern. You know, Ted's the president of my company, started off as an intern, and 80% of my staff started off as interns. So what I can say to people right now out there is, think about how it is to be a boss right now. Every single boss is going through this. Number one, you know, you're hoping that this stimulus package helps you so you don't have to let go of the most valuable asset that you have, which is your people. Number two is, of course, though, your business, depending on what it is, it could be a restaurant. You have zero coming in if you're not, you know, putting, you know, if you don't have delivery going out. All right, even if you had saved money, your portfolio is down 40, 50%. You didn't put in high, and now you have to take out low. And you also have your personal family members, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, uncle, people who are unemployed, people that may be passing away. So you're a human being. You have all these things to face with. How is an employee right now going to maybe potentially give you an offer you can't resist? Listen, boss, you know, I know that you may have to consider cutting 30% of the staff. I'm doing this and this, but you know what? I'm really technically proficient. Can I take over a little bit of social media for you? I can help you bear some of the weight in there. You know what I mean? Like, how can the employees step up and be people who are saying stuff like, I always wanted to do this in the company and we never could get it done, but now there's an opportune time because I've been raising my hand forever to do this, and and let people know that they have opportunities now also to rise to the top, you know? And so those are just a couple of thoughts in my head on about, you know, how the thought process should be for an employee and or people who are working with companies. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I'll let Ted take over some of that.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Cool.
We've always felt like there's opportunity, that's there in the midst of this crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, not to waste the crisis, and that's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I started interning for Daymond 10 years ago. So, the market was in a weird spot, and I saw an opportunity of here's this guy who has a lot of his businesses on cruise control to a certain degree, but he has this new TV show. How can I help? And I was the guy just, hey, Daymond, you think about this? And a lot of times he'd say, yeah, we did, but it doesn't work because of this. And I go, okay, cool. And then I'd come back with different ideas, and 1 out of 10, 25 ideas, he said, why don't you work on that? So tons of opportunity. And I think our team has definitely done a great job of stepping up in that spot. And I think Daymond was talking about this. I think the best thing that we've done, that I've tried to do as much as I can, is just realize that these employees are people. And even like putting the work from home thing, we're kind of in an even weirder spot because it's work from home during a crazy crisis where we have people that are mothers and fathers. I have an 11-month-old running around, and scheduling has been strange and difficult, but you just gotta work through it all. So some teams, it's kind of like, as much as you want to have complete uniformity, it's like I can't really do that all the time because this person needs to switch off and on with their husband or wife in terms of taking care of the kid and everything. So what we've done is kind of had some universal rules, but they're flexible, and then each division and project manager has kind of set up their own systems that works within them, because they might not just be able to talk from noon to 2, for example, and things like that. And it's been really helpful, and I think a lot of people have been showing that grace. We're showing grace to them, they're showing grace back, as we're trying to figure out this whole new machine and how to work with each other. So I think that level of humanity has been great, and that has definitely helped us go forward. But it's also just kind of relying on our core values and everything, so people know that North Star of where to go, making sure that, because we have so many different companies we invest in and work with, sometimes it's like document overload. So what we've really done is said, each project, what are the 5 documents that we're all looking at? And frankly, I think we've been more in sync because, when we have some kind of web call like this, you pop up a document, you're able to see exactly where it is and everything, and how people are communicating. So in some ways, it's helped us communicate way, way better. And maybe because we've had to over communicate, I think that's definitely a factor for sure. But I think when you work virtually, you have to set up systems in place. There's no longer the walking around the office and it's like, hey, so-and-so, how's that project going? And they say, oh, it's great. It's like, well, show me that document, show me what's up. And you can kind of see through a lot of things as well. So those have been kind of the main things that we've really been focusing on and trying to enforce. And I think the big thing is also just a little bit of flexibility with it all. It's a moving machine, and each day is different. So just try and figure it out as best as you can.
I think you touched on it really well. I mean, we've talked about this too internally, is like, if there's ever a season for extended grace for leaders to our teams, it's now.
Sure.
Because we need grace daily with our kids, and like it's just, there's a lot of reasons why we need grace right now. So I overemphasize that with everybody, is perfect season to give grace.
This is not the most ideal time to start working from home for a lot of people, because in an ideal world, you would not have your kids also being homeschooled at the same time. This is as stressful as it will be for a lot of parents, or even, if your partner is now working from home and you're not used to being in the same space 24 hours a day, which is probably everybody.
Absolutely.
So we've definitely heard some, kind of lighthearted or uplifting stories that have come out of this situation. Do you guys have any examples from your team or from what you've seen of either funny stories or lighthearted stories through all this?
Of just working from home and craziness going on in the background?
I think, I'll give you a second to think about it, but I saw a video of a group on Zoom, right?
I saw this, yes.
Oh my gosh. And you could see all the panels of people, and one of the girls is carrying her laptop, goes into the bathroom, sets the laptop on the ground, and pulls her pants down to use the bathroom. And on one hand, that's hilarious, right? Like, ha ha ha, what a faux pas. And I'm like, her coworkers are the worst. They knew what she was
Yeah,
about to
yeah.
do. Like, when would you ever let anybody do that to themselves if you were face to face? So I took away from that, like, be a good friend, like, be a good coworker.
Yeah.
If you can see she's
Yeah.
about to drop her pants in front of everybody, like, see
Yeah.
girl. God.
Or if you're the admin, just turn off her camera or do something. Come on, help her
Anything.
out a little bit. Yeah, we haven't had anything to that extent. I don't know. It's the new thing of, like, you hear noise in the background, you see people running around going on. So there hasn't been any moment quite like that, but it's been people. It's a new, like everyone's saying, it's a new normal with this stuff, and everyone kind of understands that there's a new situation going on. So I don't know, work from home, nothing that crazy. Yeah.
I do have a
I'll let you know
question.
if that changes though.
I've got a question for you guys. In light of all this and everybody working from home for right now, do you envision expecting any of your team to come to you and say, hey, I like the office and I come in for meetings or whatever, but I may be more productive at home. Have you guys thought about, like, your office space as a whole through this, or is it too soon to even wonder about things like that?
Yeah, I think right now it's a little too soon for us to think about that. But yeah, I'm sure that some of that will happen, and it all depends on where we feel the productivity of that person has been during the time.
Sure.
I mean, we got to really be real about the situation right now. A lot of people, they go to work and they go through their couple of hours of working, and for whatever reason they go home, they put in their hours, right? But, as senior leaders, what we're doing now is, when you got to look back, and I don't happen to have this issue with my team because I have a fairly small team, but those people who ever question why are they working so hard at night, and why are they putting in so many hours when, other people don't care? Well, the reality is, if your department goes from 10 to 5, the ones who didn't care are being let go. It's
Right.
the 5, you know what I mean? It's the 5 that did put in those hours,
Sure.
put in that time. And these are the tough times that happens. So, you'll find rock stars who you will say, you did do amazing working from home, and it saves you money and it saves me money. You don't got to come into the office anymore, and I don't have to pay for all these other expenses that I'm just giving to the government. On the flip side, some people say, I want to work from home and I can do it. And we'll say, we don't need you anymore because you weren't working when you were here. So we know you're not working at home. I mean,
Yeah.
I hate to be Mr. Wonderful here, but that's just how it goes sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess, Bryan and Shannon, have you guys, just because you guys are thought leaders in the space and everything, have companies contacted you of how are we transitioning, or how can we transition? We used to have X amount of square footage. Now we want, only 75 or half of it. What are you kind of seeing from the corporate standpoint, or maybe it's a small business standpoint as well?
It's early, I think whether we'll see a seismic shift or not, but
Yeah.
what we do know for sure is that no longer is working from home something that's a harebrained idea. It's becoming very much, look at that.
Oh, how perfect is this?
It's becoming this. It's like Daymond right now getting the opportunity to, like, communicate and work, and that's a thing that many people are having the opportunity to do now, and they value that. Whether it's getting kids off the school bus, stop, or having the opportunity to impact their home and then get back into it. We were on a call the other day with the editor Entrepreneur, and he's like, this isn't so bad after all. Like, there was, he's used to working in Manhattan, and now he's like, I kind of like this. I can hop between.
Found his rhythm.
Yeah, I used to have to wait till I got home to help, and now I'm in a situation where I can actually bounce between things. So I don't know. We're having folks reach out to us mostly around the tools and what do you do, the basics of how to work from home and lead from home. But I think there's a bigger, broader conversation that might start to happen soon with, man, we're paying a lot for this office space.
Do we really?
Let me ask you something. If somebody was watching us now, we're going to be sharing it on my platforms and obviously your platform. If they were considering working from home and they needed to get started, how would they get started? What do you think they should do? And working from home, what does that mean? Does that mean only a certain, share with me, like, all the categories of people and positions that can work from home? Not all, but a bunch, to show the diversity of it. Because a lot of people think it's just, I don't know, just an executive assistant, where it can be very many more.
It's definitely a lot of business services that are used to working from home, a lot of contracted base, administrative work, bookkeeping, things that we're all very familiar with. But through this whole thing, I've thought a lot about an interview you did about a week before things started to change. I think it was on the Hallmark channel when you were talking about powershift and talking about how Crystal worked from home, and that was her shift. And the ladies that were interviewing you face to face in the studio said, yeah, but we couldn't do this job from home. And you said, I don't know, maybe you could.
And then guess
and
what?
A week later, every news anchor, Al Roker's, sitting at his house, giving the weather to the world. Like, it was so ironic to me how quick that transition happened for an industry that we would have never thought.
Yeah, I did Good Morning America. I did Good Morning America today. Kevin was a different area. I was a different area. And we did it.
Yeah, I think that's a good example. And right now in the medical community, physicians are, they're on an iPad and a robot is driving them around a hospital doing, either telehealth or doing acute, symptoms and trying to figure out what's going on. That's happening. There are people in the Midwest that are taking McDonald's orders in California, maybe not this moment, but they're virtually taking the drive-through orders, and all working from home. There's virtual receptionists that, answer people when they walk in an office and they're talking to this human that's nowhere near their office. There's so many practical.
I never even thought of that. Yeah. You come in and you're looking at a screen and
that's right.
She says, who are you here for? I'm here for so forth and so on. And she pings them in their office and
right. She can unlock the door if she has to.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's, even before all this mess came down, like there's just so many practical applications for people to work from home. Another biggie are project managers. Especially on a global scale, you may be managing a project that's in Dubai or whatever. There's just, they're looking for people that can responsibly oversee projects from their house, wherever that might be. So,
but it's like, for how to get started in that, I think this is a very base form of what you need. You need solid internet connection. You need a video conferencing tool, whether it's Zoom or WebEx or some other one that works for your organization. You need the ability to see who you're working with, to share the screen, to manage projects. There's a million project management applications out there so that things are able to be tracked when you're not physically in the same space. It is so much, the barrier of entry is as easy as it's ever been to work from home. The technologies exist, the comfort level is there, and it's growing. Even something traditional as like interior design. We just interviewed a couple on Friday. They own an interior design company and had already started offering virtual design services, which is a whole nother service line that they created even before COVID of, how can we help more people without having to be physically on site to do it? And
it's so cool.
So even traditional industries, they don't have to like completely abandon the models that they were executing on before.
Right.
Maybe it's another service line. Maybe it's just a new and creative way to deliver more services.
No, it enhances it. Yeah, I'm sure. Instead of me, let's say I was doing my house, instead of me taking, or you coming over 10 times, maybe you only got to come over 4 now because we've kind of, we prepped everything prior virtually.
Right. But it's cool. It's really neat. What they'll do is they'll remote in on FaceTime or whatever, and they'll say, okay, well, we're going to talk about this particular space. So that means that shelf needs to go up 2 feet, or, this light, this new sconce needs to be put in here. And it's just fascinating. And you think about the application of that, you don't have to then have them to the house 100 times, to pull that off.
Yeah. So what we've just been telling other business owners during this season is, don't let this paralyze you. Don't let this crumble you as a leader or your organization. Like, look for new and creative ways to do what you were already great at. Look for points of inflection that you can make a change to maybe shore up some systems that can take you into the next season. And it may not be just about weathering the storm, but it may be about like shoring up your foundation right now so that when this is over, you can build an even more amazing organization.
Yeah. Also, our leaders, we're asking them to, double down and communicate about our corporate values.
Yeah.
Right now, our team needs to hear it more than ever before. Why these things matter to our business and where we're headed as an organization. I think our frontline employees are freaked out, and a lot of people are because do I have a job? And so you have to remind them of that, but also point to, hey, there's a bigger reason why we're here. This is where we're headed collectively.
Absolutely. What are some things that you guys have done over the past, 10 years with the belay and everything to help instill those values rather than just, hey, let's just talk about them? Because I think the new thing that everyone's doing, and I remember a couple of years, Bryan, when you told me about virtual happy hours, I was like, well, that sounds strange as hell. But it's the funny thing that our team is like, hey, can we see each other and talk and shoot the shit and talk about non-stuff? Because I think that's the weird thing about the office is, or being in the office and now you don't. You used to walk by people and say, hey, how was your weekend? Oh, did you watch this show? You tell the little joke. You get those like micro connect moments that help build a team and a sense of camaraderie. Besides everyone just doing virtual happy hours every day, what have been some other things that you guys have seen have been impactful to get culture and those values across in an effective way?
Yeah, so Salesforce is our CRM, and they have Salesforce Chatter, where we have different channels that, some people have Slack to facilitate those types of specific conversations, but we've always shared our highs and lows through either Facebook or Salesforce now, so that on Fridays people can see, okay, my high for the week was I sold this contract that I've been working on for a while. My low is my son didn't get into the college that he really hoped to get into. So it's both a personal and professional connection that we're able to make or provide an opportunity to make for our team. Another one is belay buddies. We've been doing this for a while, and it's as our organization grew, we realized that people were starting to get really siloed in their teams. And without having an office, we didn't have that luxury of walking by somebody in the hallway and asking how their weekend was. So we created a system of pairing people up who would not normally work together on a daily or weekly basis and connecting them, saying, hey, talk about whatever you want. Here's some starter questions if you need them. Do a 30-minute Zoom and just get to know your colleagues, especially those that you don't work with very often.
The virtual happy hours are awesome too, because you're basically drinking on the job.
There you go.
Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that buddy idea though. That's great.
And we do still get together face to face whenever we're allowed to, by law. But
we're having to do some events virtually that we were going to do face to face that we had to shift.
But we take the opportunity in those events to reinforce our values. Yeah. And why we're here. But I think, especially now, like companies can take some cues and do like a morning coffee hour, and you talk about a topic, or there's clearly a lot to talk about. But there's other ways to bring up. We have in belay. Our corporate team is about 100 people full time, and we do a Monday morning 10 a.m. all belay call. And so there's like 100 people on Zoom. It's a giant Brady bunch, and of course everybody's on mute except for who's talking. But there's an agenda. There's things we're talking about. There's people we're reassuring, and large corporations can do this. Like, this is not impossible to do. And we ask people to be on video. That's a
don't
biggie.
Just dial in.
The reason why is like, Daymond, if we're having a cup of coffee face to face, where in the history of the world would it be okay for me while you're talking just to do this? You know what I mean? And just hide myself from the conversation, but somehow on video it's okay. And we just say, hey, you have to do this. Like, we have to be able to see you, and it keeps people very focused too and present.
Very good.
That's great.
Are you multitasking? What's happening?
Hey, we have those minutes.
I am. I've decided that while we're home, I'm going to teach my daughter to defend herself, and so I got the groin pad too. So I'm showing her how to give a real good knee, an official knee, and
that's awesome.
So yeah.
Does she want to say anything? Does she want to share her?
No, she'll get quiet as a mouse if I. Let me see. Say hi.
Hey, sweetie.
Hi, I like your shirt.
You want to see Ted? You know Ted? Say hi, Ted.
What's up, Minka?
Are you boxing with Daddy?
She didn't get quiet enough. Usually she does.
But that, what, I think that this perfect example underscores exactly, like, life is happening and we're still producing a result. You know what I mean? It's just cool that we can multitask like this, because so many families are doing just that in their own way. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Feels like the perfect way to wrap it up,
Yeah,
don't you think?
yeah.
So, guys, is there a place where we can direct people to connect with your organization during this time, or maybe access any resources that you're creating?
Yeah, Ted, why don't you give the sign off for us as well as, for Belay, because I'm sure that on my platform, so many people are going to need to know, on how to empower themselves from everywhere from employers to potential employees. They're not going to be employees anymore. They're going to be their own entrepreneur.
Right. It's
Absolutely.
true.
Yeah. Well, we're frankly, we're sharing a lot of Belay's resources out there because they're so good, and we look at them and we go, well,
Thank you.
nothing more that we can add here. So let's give our friends a shout out here and there. And so, Daymond's doing that a lot on his Instagram and his different social channels. LinkedIn has been a big one as well. So check him out at the Shark Daymond. We're doing different interviews and conversations with people and just answering fans' questions, trying to help be the people shark like we can and give people the answers to resources. And here's the thing: we're not foolish to think that we have every single answer under the sun. But what I think the best thing is, Daymond has an amazing Rolodex and amazing access to top people. And just as we called you guys up in a time of need, what we're doing is listen to the fans and what are the questions they're having. And if we don't have those answers, pull in the top experts and the top resources to help give as many answers as we can during this kind of crazy time. So yeah, check out Daymond on at the Shark Daymond, and our website's thesharkgroup.com. You can always hit us up there. But really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk through these things. I love some of those ideas. I'm definitely going to steal some of them as well. So hope you don't mind that. But always thank you for being a great resource, and especially during this crazy time. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys are incredible. We love you. We're praying for you guys and your family and your businesses and all those that you support. So thanks for your time.
Yeah,
it's good to see you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Awesome.
And guys,
Thanks,
if you
guys.
have and if for any reason you want to just escape mentally what's going on, just watch Tiger King. Did you see Tiger King yet?
Not yet. We will.
It's on our list.
Just watch Tiger King, please.
I just finished Love is Blind. That's next on my list.
Tiger King is going to unite this entire country. They're going to bring us all together. All right. Stay safe.
We'll start it tonight. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys.